A new commitment here in the class of 2022. Five-star offensive lineman Kelvin Banks from Texas has committed to Oregon. I wanted to hop in with Ducks Digest reporter Dylan Rubenking to kind of break this down and give our thoughts on this commitment. Dylan, just kind of tell me what your initial reactions are to this commitment.
Yeah, I think it was a huge pickup for the Ducks, especially for a school that boasts being kind of the new OLU offensive line university. I think this was their biggest pickup since Penei Sewell, and especially coming from Texas, I just think it's a testament to the coaching staff and their ability to recruit in the Lone Star State. It was really remarkable, and I was honestly surprised.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a big recruiting win for Mario Cristobal and his staff, with so many programs coming after Banks, being such a highly touted offensive lineman. Let's talk about going into Texas, right? This is a pipeline state, no question about that for the Ducks now. In past classes, they've had success in Texas, but more recently they've only had a commit here or there. Now we're in the 2022 class, and you have five awesome players coming out of Texas looking to play their college football in Eugene. You got wide receiver Stephon Johnson, safety Landon Holaby, offensive lineman Cameron Williams, wide receiver Nicholas Anderson, and then the newest one, Kelvin Banks. Just tell me kind of what you think about this Texas pipeline and what it means to the Ducks.
I think one of my favorite things about the pipeline is that when I've interviewed some of the guys who are coming from Texas and I've read about them, a lot of them are saying the same thing. Like, Stephon Johnson and Landon Holaby, the guys that committed early, they're like actively recruiting those guys to come to Eugene. They're all over it on social media. They're there when they're visiting in Eugene. Like they're part of the movement. And you saw it on social media with the hashtag Kelvin to Eugene movement. That was taking the Oregon community by storm. So I think the fact that it's a community with all the Texas guys, it's a huge part, a huge credit to them bringing Kelvin Banks to Oregon.
Yeah, peer recruiting is certainly a big part of the game now. When I talk to recruits, it's they say, hey, I like being able to talk to other recruits that are going through the process. I mean, I was literally talking to TJ Dudley after he made it was either before or after he made his commitment. He's one of the new linebackers that's going to be coming to Oregon. He said, I like being able to have relationships with these Oregon commits because you can talk about the recruiting process in ways that you may not be able to with a coach or a parent. And with this whole offensive line university OLU identity, I think it's hard to find a program in this country that is more attractive for an offensive lineman than Oregon, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, you think of like the guys that they've picked up the last couple of years. It doesn't scream five-star potential, kind of like what Alabama and maybe Oklahoma, those kind of programs get. But I mean, you look at the offensive line that they had in the Rose Bowl; those guys are all in the NFL now. And even like now, they have guys who have 1 year together under their belt, and now they're starting to get some NFL love, like Alex Forsyth, especially. Um, so I think it's a credit to Alex Mirabal, especially, and Mario Cristobal. And I think that because those guys are so, they go so in depth on their film studies and the way they recruit, specifically offensive linemen. I think that it makes Oregon such an attractive place when you have two guys that know the position so well and know how to put them in the NFL.
Yeah, no question about it. It's certainly an attractive destination, like you just said. I kind of feel like I've been asking you some questions, but I want to kind of hand it over to you a little bit. Let you run the show a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Oregon being kind of a national brand. A lot of people have been saying, you have Alabama, you have your Ohio States. Maybe Oregon's not in that tier, especially in terms of recruiting. You see what they've been doing this week, especially with all the recruits they've gotten, as we've talked about the guys from Texas. But overall, do you think Oregon do you think they can say that they're a national brand at this point?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they've been a national brand. I feel like for the longest time, it's just a matter of there's being a national brand, and then there's showing the results for it, right? This 2021 recruiting class, the best in Oregon's program history. I don't know the exact number, but I knew there were multiple states where the Ducks were able to go in there and grab the top player from that state, which is just huge because it shows that you even if you're in this little town in Western Oregon and the Pacific Northwest, they're not gonna let location stop them. And they're as appealing from a brand standpoint, especially with NIL coming into play here. Nike University. I've been meaning to write a piece on this for a while, so maybe it'll come in the future. But I think that there's very few schools that are in better position to benefit off of NIL legislation when it comes to athletics and marketing their school than Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely. You think of Oregon, you think of the O, you think of Nike, you think of the flashy uniforms. I mean, I think it's a perfect place for people to, to make some money, especially now with social media as big as it is. And I think, yeah, you put it the way I would have as well with the national brand conversation. I think, really since the days of Chip Kelly and even going back to like, the Dennis Dixon days, I think Oregon is a national brand, but it's definitely time to see, if they can get to the college football playoff under Mario Cristobal with all the talent that they have.
Yeah, and you see all these top teams that are going to the college football playoff year after year, the Alabamas, the Ohio States. I think, with Alabama and Clemson in particular, those are two really powerful programs. They have such a geographic advantage where they don't need to go very far to see these guys. They have so much talent in their backyard. But Oregon's shown that they can, outwork their competitors and go anywhere in the country. You just saw with JTT today, a reverse example, Ohio State going all the way to the West Coast to get somebody. That's a recruiting battle that, I thought the Ducks could win. We don't have to talk about that too much, but I mean, it's hard to say that Larry Johnson and everything that they have going on with their NFL development isn't attractive. But yeah, man, I mean, the Ducks can get anyone from anywhere. And that's what you need to be a national championship contender. Now it's just time to start stacking. They got to push into the top 5 conversation, I think. I mean, that's what you see all the top teams doing year after year. They're in the top 5. And Oregon's not there just yet, but they are certainly working on it with the 2022 class.
Yeah, and I think when I talk to a lot of recruits, there's a lot of connections. There's a lot of seeds that the coaching staff especially has, because they have so many guys who have so much experience and have been coaching at so many different places that now you're seeing, like, the kids of, fathers who played for, coaches at Oregon. And now they have those connections in states all over the country. And, you're seeing Oregon compete for guys in SEC country in Tennessee and Georgia and Louisiana and Alabama. It's really, really impressive. Texas now, especially. So yeah, it's really impressive what Cristobal and his coaching staff have been able to do to make Oregon not just a West Coast, California dominated program, but all over the country.
Totally. Well, I know we have a little bit more that we wanted to talk about. I think that you had said you wanted to talk a little bit about fit. So if you're cool with that, let's just talk about some fit at Oregon for Banks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to see the fit. I mean, the guy is monstrous. He's an animal on the offensive line. He can maul people. If the offensive line thing doesn't work out, I think he could easily work at IHOP because he's a pancake artist. I mean, the guy is just phenomenal when it comes to the run blocking game, especially. But I think, there's a little bit of polishing. I think he's, obviously, a highly regarded, highly touted player. But I think, kind of his balance on his feet. I think he could be a little bit quicker off the ball. But I think, he could be a day one starter for Oregon. And I honestly can't wait to see that week 1 game, Oregon against Georgia, to see him potentially go against that Georgia defense that they're going to have. There's going to be so much talent in that game. So I'm really excited to see how he fits at Oregon.
You bring up a great point, especially with the Ducks pushing to have, bigger schools in that non-con schedule each year. I think that's kind of a topic that goes hand in hand with pushing for a natty, is that you got to show that you're about it and you're not going to back down from anybody. But starting as a freshman is definitely a goal that I'm sure he's trying to accomplish. I totally agree. I think that he's an awesome pass blocker, but I see his bread and butter really being in the run game. The dude's violent. He finishes each and every block that, he engages with. I was just watching the highlights, and, even if the play is way past him, he's just absolutely driving people into the ground. So this is the kind of guy you want if you're going to be, going up against some big name programs. And then last topic I wanted to just touch on here, Dylan, is recruiting momentum. Ducks now have the top class in the Pac-12 after USC just absolutely popped off earlier this summer, landing Michael Williams, big-time lineman out of Georgia. But yeah, just kind of talk about some of your thoughts to wrap this up with this, tear that Oregon's been on.
Well, on the 1st of July, they picked up three big commits. And I think if Oregon wasn't like a kind of a powerhouse in the 2022 class as of then, it definitely is now because of, the addition of Kelvin Banks. And I think for guys in Texas, I think for other offensive linemen around the country, it makes a statement like, hey, a guy from Texas who is, a 5-star potential guy. I think he's setting the tone like, hey, this is a place to go no matter where you're from, no matter where you play your high school ball, no matter if you're a starter or a guy who was on the bench. This is a place to go. And I think being the top class in the Pac-12 now, year after year, it feels like, and I don't even think it's really close anymore between them and USC. It was for a while, but I think Oregon's starting to pull away a little bit. Still some time. But I think it definitely sends a message like, hey, Oregon just runs the Pac-12 in terms of recruiting, and they know how to get the job done. But obviously, they have to show it on the field as well.
Absolutely. Ducks landed 5-star offensive lineman Kelvin Banks over Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, and LSU. Those are some of the schools that were involved. Mario Cristobal and the Oregon staff have big things coming, it looks like, on the recruiting trail.